What's going on, everybody? I am the Bad Duck, and you are the internet. Welcome back to another video. Today, we are going to talk about Spider-Man 2, the next step on our spectacular summer of Spider-Man. I know this video is already late. I apologize. I had a lot going on this weekend. I apologize. But let's move into the movie right away. Spider-Man 2 has always been one of those movies that I have had a distaste for whatever reason. A lot of people thought it was amazing, and it was the best Spider-Man movie of all time until Into the Spider-Verse came into existence, and some people even still say that nowadays. That's all fine and good. I never had that opinion, but I also haven't watched this movie in like a decade. I don't know why, I just never felt the need to actually watch the film. It was always there's always better out there, you know? It just never clicked with me, and that's just a me thing, I think. Because everyone else loves this film. And so, returning to the film, it was a definite need to see what other people were saying. More or less what I was trying to accomplish is make sense of why people thought this film was so amazing and better than the first Spider-Man movie and Into the Spider-Verse to some extent. Some people at least think that. So, going back and watching it, I have a lot to say about it. Originally, I went back and watched the 2.1 version because I want to watch the best version of it, and from what I've heard, the 2.1 version is the better film overall compared to the actual Spider-Man 2. So 2.1 is the director's cut, obviously. Watching the film and going back, it was a hard get through for about the first 30 minutes. I want to say it was just kind of dragged. It was just kind of like inconsistent. Pete loses his powers relatively at the beginning of the film, but then he has him back right during the reactor scene. It was kind of just like a weird jump, and we never get an explanation of why that happens. And that's perfectly fine. It happens every so often, but there's a little bit of just weird plot holes. And I'm not one to nitpick plot holes. I think that's just wrong, and just it worsens the movie experience, because we all need to like stretch our imagination to a little bit when we watch a film. So, anyways, and it's not like Pete doesn't have his powers on and off throughout the film. But yeah, that first half hour, I just I didn't enjoy the film as much as I thought I would have. It just didn't click with me. I just didn't understand. And then all of a sudden, we get to after the autopsy scene, I guess if you want to call it that, where they're trying to saw into the arms of Dr. Octopus, and all of a sudden it just clicked. And I was like, okay, I get it. And then, like, from there on, it just kind of kept piling on. And I will say this before we actually like get into the film, in more of the in-depth pieces. I do not think this is better than the first Spider-Man. I still think the Spider-Man from 2002 is a much better film. Not much better, better to a decent margin, but I definitely do not dislike this film anymore. But yeah, just every scene kind of just felt proper. It felt like Spider-Man. I think I finally have figured out, and I finally have climbed aboard the Spider-Man 2 train. As long it's taking me 20, no, it hasn't even been out for 20 years, 19 long years to finally get on this train. But I finally have. It's been a long time. I understand. But yeah, I just, it clicked, and it was a nice feeling to finally figure out what everyone else has been jabbering on about. Everyone is pretty okay once again. I think that they're much improved from the first film. The ones who return of them, of course, like James Franco and Tobey Maguire, improved their acting from the first film. I think they do that significantly by far. They had 2 long years to get through and make a better film, and I think they did that perfectly here. There's no problems I have with their acting. No more awkward. Tobey Maguire doesn't know how to act with someone. James Franco is no more just bland, whiny. He's still whiny, but like he's more of a vendetta-ridden whiny, and he does a better job at portraying that. Because that's what I think what annoyed me more about Franco's performance in the first film, is that he was whiny, but it was to a point where I don't think he was like believable. Dunst returns as Mary Jane Watson, and she still has zero chemistry with Tobey Maguire. Again, zero chemistry. And she's worse in this film. She got worse. She's bland. There's no character. And her character, we'll get into the characters in a little bit, but her character is terrible. I hate her character. Mary Jane Watson in these films is horrid. And I know in the third film she gets even worse because I watched the third film pretty recently. Kirsten Dunst does not get better in this film. She's horrid. Alfred Molina being Dr. Octopus, Dr. Otto Octavius. He's really good. I love his portrayal. I think that it's really well done. Obviously, I don't think it's better than Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, but I do think that he does a well enough point. I don't think he's villainous, though. I feel like he's more just like, I don't even want to say it's like, he's not guilt-driven. He's not like greedy. It's just more like, I don't know. Maybe it's just more like imposter syndrome. Like he failed at this one thing. He needs to get back to it. I don't know the exact word for it, but his performance is never villainous. And I do appreciate that. He does villainous activities, of course, but he isn't villainous himself. And that's why I think I love more about his performance is that he never portrays it that way. And Dr. Octopus as a character is... Everyone talks about this arc he goes on. It's a redemption arc, of course, but like it's also an arc that isn't really an arc. It's never Otto's fault in this film. Otto never does anything to make himself not be able to be redeemable. It's always the arms. The arms are in control most of this film. They're in the sway. They're persuading him to do all these things, and obviously they have control basically of him and his thoughts and his feelings through the microchip. So I never feel like Otto needs the redemption. I do think that he does redeem himself, even though he doesn't need the redemption. This isn't an Anakin arc where like he turns and then he has to redeem himself. It's never like that. It's never like that. Anakin and like the redemption arc doesn't exist. But when he does come back to Otto, he does redeem his actions as Dr. Octopus. So I do appreciate that, and I do like that. I just have a problem with people calling that a perfect arc. I think a better arc structure in the end, and we're gonna get into it in next week's video, is Spider-Man 3's and Sandman. So like I said, Dr. Octopus is amazing. Lena does an amazing job with him, but I do think, like I said, the arc is not really an arc. Pete's arc in the film is enjoyable. It was weird. Pete in the film I enjoyed more than I did in the first film. I think that's pretty cut and dry. I think most people think that way. And I think it's more because he is not annoying. He was a little bit annoying in the first film, but in this film he does a lot more, and he kind of is just more of like a guy throughout Spider-Man's life. And just like seeing the difference from his Spider-Man life at the beginning of the film to what it is now is, I think, or what it was throughout the film, is a very nice change of pace. Pete's arc and Pete's character do a lot of good restructuring that was much needed from the first film, and I had to applaud them for that. They figured out what was wrong with that and they fixed it. I think that they did an excellent job at rebuilding Pete's character in this movie. James Franco's character, like I said, is kind of just a whiny little bitch still. But he's a tolerable little bitch because of James Franco's performance. I think that's a big plus. I think that James Franco and Sam Raimi, whoever rewrote the film or readjusted his character, did perfectly fine. He didn't really need much rework. It was more just a reacting, and I think that Franco did perfectly fine, and he readjusted that to a dime. Going back to Mary Jane's character, she doesn't have one. I think that's the problem with her. She doesn't really have a development. She never has anything wrong with her that she needs to fix, or just an arc in general of like overcoming like bad things that happen to her. And it's always that she's the one who creates those incidents. And I don't think that's a positive when it's your protagonist. She's more of an antagonist, if anything. I'd argue that she does more villainous activities or more antagonist things than Otto. Not Dr. Octopus, but Otto. Just, she kisses her fiance like she kisses Spider-Man in the alley to like feel a spark. She wants to feel a spark between them, and that's why, or whatever it was. Maybe it wasn't a spark. Maybe it was just her because that she wants to be like, that's the one I fell in love with. But anyways, And then in the cafe, she asks Pete to kiss her for whatever reason. Probably thinking that he is Spider-Man and wants to feel it. She's just the worst human being in this film by far. It's inconceivable how bad she is. And I fucking hate her performance. I hate her character. She's the worst part about these films. This is what drags down these films so much in my mind, is that when we get into the Amazing Spider-Man in a few weeks, I enjoy the romance plot. I hate the romance plot here. I don't get why Raimi can't write a good romance, or whoever wrote it. I think it was his brother. I don't know if I talked about this in the last video. If I didn't, failure on my part. But J. Jonah Jameson, portrayed by J.K. Simmons, is the greatest casting of all time. It's the greatest comic book casting, greatest actual casting. I don't care. It's the greatest casting of all time. He nails it 1,000%. There is no other man I can see ever being J. Jonah Jameson. That's it. He is the greatest. He is the GOAT. I don't care what Batman you care for. I don't care what Superman you want, or whoever you prefer as Spider-Man. J. Jonah Jameson is J.K. Simmons. That's it. There's no debate. The editing is a little wonky. Same with the pacing. The pacing is very off-putting. I personally did not enjoy it. It moves from scene to scene very loosely. I want to say it just kind of like swaps whenever it wants, and like it doesn't really connect to the previous scene in whatsoever, or have very thin webbing to it when they try to connect them together. It's just all over the place. The editing has that same weird like fade in, fade out. It didn't have that weird flame transition from the first film, that obviously, but there's another burning building in this. That's a really weird thing from Raimi to have two burning buildings in two films. Just saying. I believe the Spider-Man costume actually gets a little bit of an alteration. It's a little more defined in the webbing. It's a little more just like crisp and just a refinement of the suit. There's no really big adjustment, but you can definitely tell there's a clear difference and clear update to the suit. I mean, it's very much a positive. Dr. Octopus's costuming is fine. It's not accurate at all whatsoever. But that's a thing with the Raimi movies. They're never going to be accurate, besides one character. We'll get into that next week. But yeah, I didn't really have a problem with it. The CGI of the arms is amazing. It's a lot better than the CGI in the first film. Another big upgrade. 2 years is a lot of time in the technology era. So you're going to get a lot of updates and a lot of just better visuals like that between films. So no complaint there from the CGI. It's still a little bit wonky, still a little rubbery, but not as bad. I didn't talk about in the first film. In the first review. I think I focused much more on the positives in that review. So, but yeah, I had a wonderful time revisiting this film. I didn't think I would, and I'm very much happy that I did, and I'm very, very excited to get into the third film. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'm the Bad Duck, and you are the internet. Remember to subscribe; it's always free. Merch is in the description. Go check it out. Enjoy it. Have fun. But I will see you guys in the next video for Spider-Man 3. Yeah. Bye bye.